apologies if not everything is very accurate in this. I mean, perfect in this community code. Simply, we've been swamped with work lately, and the change from bear market building mode, where you take more time and you have to make some fundamental decisions, to a bull market where there's a ton of new things happening every day, taking a lot of your attention span, a lot of people soliciting you everywhere, has been very brutal. So yeah, uh, please understand where we come from. So first of all, revenue. In fall last year, we went down to 20K of monthly revenue, which was much more than nothing, but was still not enough. The good news is that we have been digging out ourselves of this trench consistently since the release of Quest V2. I think in September and October, we're around 20K of monthly revenue. We did 25K or something, 24K in November, 28 in December, as you can see. Actually, probably more since it was a 40% increase from 23K to 28K to 32K, 31K in January. I expect it should be similar or larger in February. I guess we'll see. There's still a few metrics we're missing in order to find this out. And we expect this to keep growing as one ETH, of course, is going back up, but we're also creating new revenue sources that we'll be able to chat before. So things are getting better, which is important because for the past 3 months, the dev company I represent has been entirely funded by Paladin. So we need to be able to afford this, plus other initiatives, especially with the tokenomics upcoming. But if you look at it, even against ETH, I think we're up something like 30% in the past 3 months. Basically, PAL had a bottom of something like 7.5 cents, and now we're up at 19 cents. So it's noticeably better, which is something good. We can congratulate ourselves on. I think the DAO has over $6 million of assets, of course counting PAL, but something like 900K without the PALs, which is a significant amount that's guaranteeing us not just survival, but being able to thrive in the upcoming market. So yeah, that's it for revenue. Most of it's still coming from Quest and our farms. There's a very consistent stream that's about $600 or $700 that's coming from Warlord. We really need to scale the solutions, and we have a few ideas in order to do this. But first of all, let's talk a bit about liquidity. We officially moved, I think, in January, the PAL Ohm pool into a PAL ETH pool on Arbitrum. The big LPs have migrated there. I haven't checked yet if there was a lot of trades happening, but I feel like the liquidity is better. I don't know if anyone played around with it, but I would love to know. We grew the Liquid POL as it was we were supposed to, and there's currently a proposal on the forums in order to move some POL onto Blueprint. The idea is to experiment around concentrated liquidity while doing more explorations around how solidly forks work to see if we can do something with it. The note is that we do have a partnership with Blueprint where they offered us, if we were to bribe, 250K VBlue that's delegated to us. If we don't bribe, they just stop delegating them to us. It's pretty easy. We do not own the assets, but we do have the voting power to help us bootstrap in exchange. What's really cool about this is that we did roughly the maths around the emissions, etc., and we think this can bring probably something like $1,000 or $2,000 extra of revenue every week if it's done correctly. So this is what we're trying to do: basically create a concentrated liquidity position in order to offer a smoother experience of trading, and against this, basically offer something where we can make new revenue streams. So this is basically what we're doing. Now, financially speaking, the DAO is doing well on a lot of fronts. We do have to be careful as we have the Mimo debt that's coming back next month, and we're going to have to be able to pay back. We can probably negotiate with this, but we're still going to have to see. It's always complicated because most of the assets that are used as collateral are CRV, so we're very dependent on CRV price action. Whatever happens, we'll be able to pay back. We will be able to afford the DEFCO for March. It's not a financial problem. The question is more how and where are we going to allocate the resources in order to do this. So yeah, we're in a situation where we've built a profitable and sustainable project. Now we just have to be able to scale it. Personally, it's been very frustrating because we have been trying to scale what's been working for the past 18 months. And it's been working, quote unquote, so and so. There are a lot of positive signs of people who want to build with us, of major partners like You've probably seen in January we've started working with Strider Digital, who's the representative to grow liquidity with PayPal. This bodes well. They haven't put incentives last week. They should put some next week again, but we expect good growth on them. You might have seen a few other stuff that's coming. There's a lot of good things, a lot more that we cannot announce because they're not confirmed yet. But this has to convert into more revenue for Paladin. Otherwise, it's useless. And that's something we've really shifted into our building philosophy, as you'll see in the coming months. So Boost has been very calm. Honestly, we've removed the CRV because they just updated their V Boost to cancel delegation, so it's not possible to sell curved V Boost anymore. However, you can see that we're still making a fair amount of money on stakes VSDT boost. It's not huge, something like $1,000 every month. It's still something that counts. So we're using this. And we expect a lot more, not that Aave has deposited significant amounts into VSDT, and that there's the convergence layer on top that's synergetic with our boost platform. It's still a very small part of our project, Warlord is honestly a bigger and much that has a lot more potential. So I've taken the metrics we showed early in December. There are two things that that happened that are good and bad. The first one is that we had one major holder that deposited a lot of aura back in October. You can actually see it in the graph. Like we went from 200 to 600k TVL. It was one or two people that deposited a lot of aura who exited once their lock happened early February. So there's a bit of TVL that's been going out. We're going to take a hit in terms of TVL again. We basically went from 250k to 120k war circulating, and then because of the fee system and the way we were distributing all of this, we went back to 183k, which is the current. So we're basically down 25% total in war. We expect this to come back progressively, probably by mid-March at most. But against this, if you look at Tolduar, for example, our sister protocol who has been building a compounder and has a lot of more interesting stuff in the works. They basically tripled their TVL in 2 months, which is great. It means that the project is working, and that's good. From what I heard, and if they want, they can confirm, they're finally profitable in the harvest, so the fast escape velocity to basically keep pushing this in the right direction. What we're working on is how to accelerate Warlord. We thought about working around the V2, looking at what we could build around this. Um, Before doing any of this, we want to keep pushing that version. We understand there are some things that could be made better, but we want to keep exploring. And something that's very important we've been looking is to enable lending. So we're working with TimeSwap in order to create a pool where people will be able to deposit T-War and borrow USDC against it. You can loop it if you want, or you can do other stuff with it. But the essential is that it's likely going to be one, incentivized in PAL. It's not by the DAO, don't worry. Two, it's going to be at least 15% APR, but you don't have to pay back. Basically, it's 50% LTV, but there's no liquidation. So at the end of the 2 months, basically either someone gets the T-War or you pay back your USDC with interest rates. It's basically by 2 months loop. And the idea is to enable people to take on leverage and do more T-War bonanza if they want to. So yeah, that's about it. The idea is to push Tolga up to 100k of TVL because if we do this, it's going to create some interesting loop effects around world. So expect more of this coming probably in the next two weeks. And yeah, we probably need Tolga emoji. You're right. Moving outside of Warlord, which has been, by the way, yielding, as I mentioned, something like $600-700 every month in USDC, which is very interesting as a project. The delegation has been working interestingly well. So our CVX delegation is finally pushing back up, especially since we announced that we would distribute rewards in CRV USD. There was a slight hiccup last time, but it's no problem. We've really captured the league delegation. The problem is that they're kind of posing the development for until Uniswap V4 is out, so it's not really relevant. And Aura has been a bit of a mix and match. We had a very large delegation coming out, another very big coming in at the same time, which replaced. And now we're not sure. There was probably a significant delegator that either timed out or undelegated from us. So we need to figure out what happened with this one. We grew a lot again in the past 2-3 months on VCVX. VL Aura is kind of stagnant. We really need to pick up on this one. But on the other hand, we have been really good at outperforming Hidden Hand with our delegation. So it should really be a no-brainer, to be honest. So we're going to keep exploring what happened and keep pushing for the delegation program because it is simply very good. Um, and yeah, moving on. But our priority is probably growing the VLCVX delegation address over the next few weeks. Speaking of, I'm sorry of the ugly graph. I tried to do something else, but it didn't work. I don't know why. I wanted to do an average trend line. So basically, what we're seeing is the volume of quests on V2 since launch. What you see is that it's not really up only, but there's clear trends of every markets that are going up. And that's basically our goal. It's to keep having these going up uh, with an average that we is currently like a bottom floor that's roughly around 75, 80K. We'd like to be around 100K. So we're still finishing up a few partnerships, working on some big integrations that should help us push this through. But Quest V2 is doing well, just needs to do much better if we want to be able to have a dominant platform in the coming few months, especially with all the catalysts that are coming. Maybe to talk a bit about this catalyst without looking too much. I mean, it's no secret we've been looking into two big things. One of them we've announced on Twitter, which is liquidity direction. You can expect stuff from us on this. And the second one, which is new pairs and new chains and new AMMs, namely Maverick, that we'd like to integrate. This is always dependent on the release of all of these protocols, who are basically tribute to when these protocols are ready. It's better if they are late and successful than early and unsuccessful. So yeah, that's about it for Quest. It's doing well. It can do better. It will do better. Now, for the important part, tokenomics. So multiple things happened. I'm not sure the metrics are right for the circulating supply sticked and locked. Maybe we've updated them. I haven't checked. We have updated the circulating supply. You might have the impression that the circulating supply grew by 4%, 40%. Sorry, it was at 10 million in October. Now it's at 14 million. There's a very simple reason for this. Most of our investors are now unlocked, and the ones who wanted to sell have sold, which means that now there is no like supply that's going to suddenly increase. It's basically this is the amount that we have emitted. There's a few investors who haven't claimed yet, but a good amount of them already have claimed. So we've come to a point where we have something like 3.15 million HPAL that are locked. We have more than 35% of the supply that's staked. We need to keep pushing for more people to get there. But this is important because the new tokenomics are coming. We've teased them. We've talked a lot about them. We did a few peer reviews. We just finished an audit contest that finished literally, I think, 2 hours ago with Hats Finance. We had a lot of reviews. There's nothing critical to my knowledge. Yeah, and that means that we basically needed to finish the front end integrations, fix one or two things that were recommended, especially around optimization, and we shall be live. At current prices, 50K PAL emitted every week is going to be around the $9,500 every week. So for those of you who are already uh, locked in and participate on a daily basis in the quest operations, it's probably going to be some very lucrative first weeks, hopefully. And then there's two options. Either we get diluted to oblivion because there's going to be so much buy pressure, but we'll all be very, very rich, or it has less success than we anticipate, and we'll be able to keep farming something while building value for the protocol. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep killing ourselves into making this successful. Don't worry about this. Um, that's about it. Maybe we published a post on Twitter about it. We'll probably redo one soon. To give you an idea, if we were to direct 20% of the emissions to the TAL ETH, which is kind of the flagship pool for our liquidity up until now, the emissions would go, the APR from voting in it would go from 22% to 26 to 92%. So it becomes kind of a no-brainer, and the idea is that we can attract new voters that otherwise wouldn't have bothered to come to our interface. Moving to governance, we've talked about the blueprint POL migration. I will, if there's no other questions, I will push the proposal tonight in order to advance into this. Very important, there's been a change with the signer system. There's 2 spots to take at least, probably 4, depending on if the 2 old signers represent themselves or not. So if you are interested in becoming a signer and part of the council, please do signify yourself in the forums. Thank you everyone who has been involved into this. It's never easy. but it's been going well. It's paid in PAL, of course. PAL has been going up, so the pay has been going up paradoxically. And yeah, nothing huge right now in governance. What's probably going to come is we're going to need to set up the Genesis gauges for the tokenomics. So of course there's going to be all the Paladin quests, but there's probably also going to be a few of our big clients in order to welcome them onto that new system. And yes, I think that's about it for governance. In terms of outlook, we've talked about Warlord landing. I think it's going to be a good leverage for us. Let's see what we can do with it. You should expect the tokenomics in a few weeks. It's not going to be next week. It's going to be soon, very soon. And some big announcement that by the end of Q1, we're waiting for two big answers before being able to talk about this. And hopefully at least another Bride Marketplace live, another marketplace probably live before end of March. I don't want to promise anything. We do have a lot of work lately, but that's where we're looking at. There's not going to be any major change on the Quest V2. Of course, it released recently in terms of protocol, but you should expect a lot of things, namely in the UX, in the way it's worked, in separating it between voters and people who are creating incentives. We're getting to a really interesting point with the product. Now we just really have to scale it with the right people. But yeah, we're excited about what's coming up in every direction, honestly. So yeah, we've talked a lot. I don't know if you have any questions on this. Feel free to do so. Now is your time.